It's time for our healthy eating tip of the week, and it's the perfect time of year for us. We've talked before on the show about how important it is to be as organic as we can be. We've talked about the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. If you're interested in more information about that, all you have to do is Google. There are plenty of different sites that will tell you, and it changes a little bit from year to year, so it's not a bad idea to kind of Google it and get a refresher. But there are certain types of fruits and vegetables that are more likely to have a pesticide residue on them than others. It's kind of common sense because if something has a thick skin on it, it's going to absorb most of the pesticide residue. So if you're peeling something, it's less likely the inside fruit or vegetable is going to have a problem. But it isn't always that way. So really good thing to do to look at the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen and buy accordingly. But something that I like to advocate at this time of the year is to visit your local farmer's market. And I live in Southern California, so I'm incredibly lucky and grateful that we have farmers markets year round. They cycle in and out of different produce, and there are months where it's still, a little bit on the thin side, but we're moving into an area where everybody's farmers market is going to be open and have a wider variety. And it's a really great way to get fresh food, to support your local farmers, and to also have an opportunity to talk to the people who are growing it. And there are a lot of people who are not necessarily organic but aren't using pesticides. And this can be a really economical way to make sure that you're putting healthy food on your family's plate. That I make it a habit to go to our weekly farmers market, and I know everybody now, but I still have conversations with somebody who's new or ask about a specific item and say, are you using pesticides? And I know that there are some people who say no fertilizers even. Well, I'm at the point where I got to prioritize, right? I got to be able to feed my family, and I got to be able to do it as economically as possible. And so I've made the decision for us that we're going to try to be as organic as possible. I looked at some of the studies that came out last year, and I would encourage you to look at them because, nothing conclusive yet at this point, but they're seeing that there is a connection that needs to be further looked at with pesticides and neurotypical issues. I will be honest with you that I used to say, well, it's good to be organic because it's better for the environment. But if you don't have the money and the time, a lot of times that can fall lower on your list of priorities, especially when you're dealing with a child with special needs. And the one study that I saw that came out just about a year ago, and we'll bring that in at some point, but it was talking specifically about organophosphates, pesticides, which is the thing that's on most of our fruit and vegetables now, and commercially grown fruits and vegetables. And I said to somebody afterwards, it's one of those moments where you go, okay, I really just didn't get this. But when I thought about pesticides, I thought, well, what do pesticides do? They kill bugs. And clearly it can't be that bad for us because we're not, we're all still standing and breathing, and we've been around this our whole lives, so how bad could it be, right? And then what the study did was detail exactly what pesticides, organophosphates in any case, do to pests. And in actuality, they don't kill them. What they do is create a disturbance in their neurotransmitters, which first makes them hyper. And it makes them so hyper because the amount of pesticide to their body weight makes them so hyper that they aren't able to eat efficiently and do the things that they need to do efficiently in order to maintain their lives. And in fact, in some pesticides, it makes them so hyper that they get to a point where they freeze up because they've been so hyperactive and literally become paralyzed while their whatever is going on with the neurotransmitter is still shooting, and eventually their systems start to shut down because they're in paralysis. So, but more often than not, what they do is make them hyperactive so that they can't concentrate and do what they need to do to sustain life, which is eat on the vegetables. And that, I was like, ooh, there's something particularly icky about that, and are we sure that that's not affecting us? And what the study did was tested children for hyperactivity and compared that to the level of pesticide that they found in their urine, and saw that there was a distinct correlation between children who were hyperactive. They, across the board, had the higher level of pesticides. So that for me did it. I just said, okay, we want to, we're trying really hard to, for me anyway, we're trying really hard to give our son the best possible opportunity to make the optimal growth. I don't want something in his body that's working against him. So that's why we're trying to be organic. And this is why I advocate going to farmers markets, because you can talk to them. They may not be organic because it takes a lot of years and a lot of money to be organic, but they may not be spraying. And for me, that's moving in the right direction. And you can get really great quality produce from farmers who could use the support and that aren't using these chemicals on their crops. So it's a win-win all the way around. And I think it's great to take your child to the farmer's market with you and let them see all the different things and let them pick. There are times when my son will pick something and I'll go, really? You really want that? But I'm amazed sometimes. And I let him sort of be the captain of his own destiny and pick those things. I've talked on the show before about, we always talk about eating a rainbow, and that I'll have him go and pick, you know, what parts of the rainbow are we going to eat today? And it's always interesting what he can. There aren't a lot of bad choices at the farmer's market. So that if they're picking something, you're pretty, you know, sometimes he'll say, well, you know, for my blue thing, I want it to be blackberries. Well, you know, in the realm of things, I have to ration how many blackberries, because that converts into a lot of sugar in my son's body. But a few blackberries or a few blueberries is going to be a good thing in his diet. Lots of antioxidants. So I encourage you to support your local farmers. I encourage you to have conversations with them about what they're using on their crops. And there are also some organizations, if you really want to be very specific about organic, there are organic farmers all over the country who have bound together and created services where you get a box of whatever is freshest and in season delivered either to your house or to a local shopping center where you go to pick it up. And, you know, I mean, there are things that you have to consider because it's on a certain day and you have to be there to pick up your box, and you have to let them know a week in advance if you're not going to be there to pick up your box, or you still get charged. But for a lot of families, it's a really good, I don't have to think about it. They usually will include recipes with the fruits and vegetables that are in there. So if you're getting something you go, I have no idea what to do with a rutabaga, there's usually something that says, you know, here's 3 recipes for what to do with a rutabaga. By the way, you can take a rutabaga and you can cook it along with some potatoes in making mashed potatoes to up the level of nutrient in it, and your child won't even know that they're having mostly rutabaga mashed potatoes. But lots of things like that. That's for the little bit more adventuresome, I think, because you don't know what you're going to get. But we can all go to the farmer's market, plus which it's a great stress relief. It's outdoors. It's an opportunity for your child to be talking to people. My son goes to the farmer's market and people know him, so they'll ask him questions. And if we're working on something specifically, I can let somebody know, you know, it's good to ask him this or whatever so that he gets to practice. It makes your child's community that much bigger while you're teaching them about fresh fruits and vegetables. And I think it makes it easier for them when they're sitting at the table. I mentioned before, we have a little community garden plot that we got this year for the first time, and I've been having my son help me garden this plot, and we just were able to harvest some carrots the other day. And my son eats carrots. It's not like any big deal to him that he eats carrots, but he was so excited to be able to pull the, you know, he had put the seed in, and to be able to pull the carrot out. It's just a wonderful lesson. He also, at the farmer's market, had gotten a little Swiss chard plant. And I love Swiss chard, but it's not one of those things that I've had great success getting my child to eat. But he planted this Swiss chard plant, so he is very excited and about the fact that it's harvest time time for the Swiss chard and was thrilled to eat some of it the other day. I don't think I could have gotten Swiss chard down him any other way than having him plant it and grow it. So making vegetables a part of our existence, making them part of our children's existence, it really can work on a whole bunch of things at the same time and be very reinforcing for them, which is ultimately what we want.